Hey everyone, I'm Joanna Rochester. I'm here with my guest, my daughter, Catriona McConnell, and we are talking today about negative self-talk. So often we're so hard on ourselves. We say some of the meanest things to ourselves, things we would never say to anyone else, and things we would never allow anyone to say to us. Or, well, maybe we would, but we shouldn't. And so often we're not even aware that we're doing it. So we want to talk about negative self-talk today. Like, stop telling yourself you're stupid or an idiot, and share with you some of the techniques and tips that we've learned to move through that and move past it so that we can be more positive with ourselves and actually see ourselves for who we truly are. So this is Real Talk Soul Alchemy with myself, Joanna Rochester, once again, and check out my website down below, soulalchemisthealing.com. I've got a YouTube channel, but this is also part of Speak Up and Empower's online community of heart-centered people that share their story to help other people find more in their lives. So I am a international speaker, an author, homeopath, nutritionist, and a life coach, and I've on my journey of becoming more aware, becoming more conscious, I have learned to let go of the negative self-talk and move to a place where I can see a better version of myself, or maybe it's a truer version of myself. So welcome today, Catriona. And yes, we found separate chairs because people thought we were sitting on each other's laps. And
no, I'm just considerably taller than my mother. That's why it looked like...
Whatever.
Yes, it's just a large chair. But yes, hi Nancy.
And 5'7". It's not that short.
Oh, well, your next shortest child is 5'9". So.
Anyways.
And it's not me. I'm 5'10".
Anyways. Yes, the hair is up and back today. So, Catriona McConnell. And maybe it wasn't. Sorry, I think for some people, it is like, I know I didn't realize how negative I spoke to myself until I finally was in a counseling session with someone. And she said, well, how do you talk to yourself? And thanks, Tony. It was kind of one of those things, and I didn't realize that how negative I spoke to myself. So perhaps for me, it was a bit more of an epiphany, but how was it for you?
I think it was one of those things where it was finally pointed out, where just like the things that you say, and if you don't get the mark you want on a project, or if you run a little bit late that day, you're like, fuck, so sorry. Like you're just like so mad at yourself because things out of your control, you were still late, but you're still like swearing at yourself because of something that was just an accident, like where you can just be so harsh on ourselves for so many things. And yeah, it was that expression that I heard that you wouldn't let a friend say those things about themselves. Why should you let you talk about your story? It's one of those convoluted ones.
Well, and there's so many things, right? Like, oh my God, what a stupid idiot. I used to say that all the time, right? You're an idiot. How stupid can you be? Or I could never wear that. It would look so gross in it. Or, oh my God, my body's awful. Or whatever it is, right? There's so many things that we say and judge ourselves on too. I think that's a really huge one that I really see, or what I, still see with myself a bit, but I'm pretty conscious of it. So I catch myself pretty quickly, but also with a lot of my clients, I really see a lot of clients saying, well, especially when we're going back and looking at prior times, right? And how stupid I was, or how could I allow that to happen? Or how could I not have stood up for myself? And I think that's such a big thing that when we're judging ourselves like that, looking back in hindsight, we are saying that we did something wrong. And so often, that's not true. It's not that we did something wrong. We'd like to do it different now, or we'd like to change the way we did it. But it's not that we did it wrong. It was just that's what we were capable at that time. Does this bring up any incidents for you that you can think of?
Oh, well, last week I had, so I'm in school. We've talked about it before, but last week was midterm week. And my program, again, is exactly what I want to be doing. But there's some challenges and difficulties that we've tried to talk to the professors and like the program as a whole before. And the fact that they had every one of the midterms in 1 week. So I had 5 midterms last week. which is just a lot. And some of the professors were actually, and in COVID time, so everything's online, it's a little bit different. And it was a combination of some professors are very understanding, and sometimes they surprise you, where a professor who's usually kind of a hard ass gave us an extra hour to write this. It was, some people have been great, but others not so much. And so there was a couple times just last week where, like, at the end of the day, I'd be sitting and watching TV, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, you're so lazy. You should be studying. Like, how dare you not be studying at this exact moment? But I literally could not at all. I was just done for that day. And so, like, I should have just been a bit more gentle with myself and just more understanding that, yeah, I did study. I studied for like 5 hours, and no, it wasn't like 100% strict studying, but I was at my desk, like, learning things for 5 hours. After that, your brain can't do anymore. Well, I should have been a little more gentle.
And that's such a great one, right? Because we do it all the time. I know with everything going on in the world, right, and all the shutdowns and lockdowns, it's so much of our society says, unless you're busy, right, unless you're doing something constantly, then you're not a success, or you're not working hard enough. And that's such an old way of thinking. And it's actually, if you look at the masculine and feminine, it's the masculine, right, that drive to be doing something. And these are not, looking at men or women, they're masculine traits, right? It's brought on by testosterone. It drives us to be doing something, but also that culture that says that the only way you're a success is if you're busy, or you're making money, or, you're seeing clients all the time. And, there is working hard, and that's important, but it's also much more important to work smarter, right? So as you said, right, it was time to stop, because you weren't going to take anything more in anyways. So, pay attention and honor yourself and say, you know what, I've had enough. But it's also really important to be able to hear yourself say, like, I've got to be doing something. And it's so not true. Like, so much of what's been going on in the world with COVID is like, slow down, take some time, figure yourself out, and become more aware. Yeah. So
one of my coworkers, super quick, after the first lockdown, I hadn't seen her until it reopened again. It was probably 6 months after the fact. And she had always struggled with her weight, and we were in events. So she would work a 14-hour shift, or we would work a 14-hour shift, and you don't have time to eat. And so she would shove something in her mouth at like 2 a.m, working weddings and stuff. And so when I saw her after 6 months, she had dropped 40 pounds. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, wow, like, how? And she said, we were speaking about it, she said, this is the first time, she's my age, she's about 28, that she had to not be working, because she went to high school, and then at age 20 she got pregnant. And so she was like, oh no. She was very happy for her baby and everything. And she was married, not that you have to be, of course, but then she immediately went into school for event planning. And it's pretty hard, again, a very hard program to do. And then she immediately went into a high powered restaurant job. And then immediately went to where I worked. I was working at a winery called Stratus Vineyards. They are absolutely amazing. If you're ever in Niagara-on-the-Lake, highly, highly recommend. And so she was working crazy hours there. So this was her first time in her life that she had time where she could sit and examine her life and what she wanted, and why was she eating that? Why was she doing that? And it's not even, she was working. She was also teaching her daughter, but just having that extra time to examine what was going around her. She finally was able to lose that weight she wanted. And not only a weight thing, it's just gain a healthier understanding of herself and why she was eating like that, or just not eating, as more accurate.
Well, and that not eating is huge in so many people, especially, there's a lot of, and I work mostly with women, but, so many women that are in the workforce, right? And owning, entrepreneurs with their own businesses, they put in a ton of hours, and they don't find the time to stop and eat. And what happens then, right? They eat a ton when they get home. But they also, during the day, they've gone into starvation mode. So starvation mode, so their body's going to store up everything they do eat. And then at the end of the day, they eat these big meals because they're starved and exhausted, right?
So midnight snack from a wedding. So, oh, and here's the dough.
Yeah.
So it's not good food. Delicious.
Well, or else they're ordering, picking up something on the way home, right? And then it's junk. So it's,
thing open at 2 in some McDonald's.
Well, yeah, even earlier on, right? You pick up food, right? But it's not food you want, but you also don't make wise choices because you're starved. So it all lends towards it. And then you judge yourself, right? Why am I gaining weight? Why do I look so awful? Which you probably don't, but in your mind you do.
She's always beautiful, but she feels healthier and better. And again, it was just that she had a time to sit down and think and examine her life and her choices and everything.
Yeah. So it's all about, being able to, spend some time, and it's being that, and I'm always on this, right? Whether you're talking wellness renegade or soul alchemist, it's about being that observer in your life, right? Start noticing how you talk to yourself. And when I first started doing, I used to wear these elastics on my wrist, and I would snap the elastic, and not so that it hurt, but just a reminder, right, to be focused on it, to be conscious of the thoughts. And at first you don't want to try and change it or anything like that. You just want to be aware, whether it's your thoughts, whether it's emotions that are popping up all the time, or whatever it is, right? But just to be aware of what's going on and notice and hear yourself. And then once you've done that for several days and you come to be aware of how many negative thoughts you do have, then you can start to go, all right, how do I transform that, right? How do I flip that around? And it can be just as very simple as saying, no, I don't think I'm stupid. Maybe that was a silly thing to do. But in the future, here's how I'd like to handle it, and just start to transition those thoughts. So what did you tell yourself the other night with the exam? How did you talk to yourself about stopping?
Well, I would say this is the next morning type thing, where that night wasn't ideal. But the very next day, actually, my amazing mom sent me a care package in the mail.
Oh.
So it's a lovely one with about 1,000 packing peanuts in it. But it was still a very thoughtful gift. She sent me a hair package. But it was the next morning where, I went to bed, I was just down. It was I had the exam to write next morning. I was exhausted. I was down. But probably the next day, I was like, okay, I should have been just a little soft for myself. For hindsight's 2020. So just trying to be, again, aware, and forgive yourself for how hard you were on yourself.
Excuse me. Sorry.
And then the next day I had another exam to write. So at the end, I think it was 11 o'clock, and it was another one of those things where, maybe I could keep studying, but I wasn't retaining anything. So rather than getting super mad at myself, I just accepted, okay, I'm done for the day. Let me go read a book or do a hobby, or I just picked up embroidery because why not? So I'm done for the day. Accept this as a fact, and don't get mad or stomp my feet or just be like, okay, this is it. We're done.
So Catriona's talking about school, and obviously there's, this time of year we're in reading week for some people, and Kat's just finishing reading week, but reading week, but it's not just students, it's all of us, right? And so often that voice is your inner critic. And that inner critic is in part kind of your ego trying to control you. And it controls you by trying to keep you safe. So keep being busy, but being busy, not doing new things, but the old stuff, the old patterns, the old way of doing things, which is not very often working smart. It's working hard. And so, once again, being that observer and conscious of it and aware of it, so that you can say, you come to recognize, when I catch myself, right, thinking, oh, I should be doing something, why am I sitting here reading this? And often I'm reading about work, right? Stories, or not stories, but research or ideas and topics and things like that. But it is, going, no, this is okay. Right? This is supposed to be, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, because it's also such a big thing in this lifetime, right? To do what you find that brings you joy and brings you happiness. And if that's reading a book every once in a while, right? Like a romance or a comedy or mystery, whatever it is that brings you joy and happiness, it's so important. That's part of your self-care and your self-love. And, if you get caught doing it all day long, then you may be procrastinating. But often, why do we procrastinate? Because we're unsure of what we really want to do. Or we know there's exercises that what we should be doing, but we're afraid of success, we're afraid of failure, whatever it is. This is what often why we procrastinate, because we're afraid of starting that project, because we don't know what to do or whatever, any of the other things I mentioned. So procrastination is not a great thing either. And there's great tools, the 5-second rule. What's her name?
Or even just changing how you look at things. Again, for a project, kind of to bring it to school.
Sorry, Mel Robbins.
Mel Robbins? Oh.
Yeah.
There was a project I've been dreading since I first heard about it. It's a 5-semester program. And this is a semester where we have to, it's called the Phoenix Project, where they have horrible wines and we have to fix them. And since I heard about this, I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be way too hard. I'm absolutely dreading it. I wasn't looking forward to it. But honestly, it's probably the most fun I've had with school. And even before we started it, I was like, okay, why am I dreading this? Because I'm worried about failing. But it's okay, because you're a student, you're still supposed to do this. And so I stopped dreading this project and I didn't start embracing it, but I just started going, okay, it is what it is. Like, I can't do anything about it. So I just changed my attitude of, I'm no longer going to dread this project. And I let it kind of grow and develop. And yeah, I was kind of looking at this project as a whole huge thing, because there's a lot of stuff that's wrong with this wine. And how do you even start? Well, you start by, like, the first step is to analyze it. And we know how to do that. I've done this 1,000 times. And then you just next step and next step and next step. And honestly, we're probably ahead of my entire class. Like, it's going really well.
Good. But that's what,
sorry, the whole point is to change your attitude about it.
Well, and also, but that's a great point there too, right? To take small steps, right? We've all guilty of that, right? That we set aside a project for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks because we don't want to get started. We're not sure, we're procrastinating. And then it takes us 5 minutes to do it.
You're calling to cancel your prescription service for, that you signed up for and didn't do for 6 months.
Well, that's just it, right? And, and then when you do, it's like, why did I do that months ago? So, things like that. So break it down into smaller steps, right? When you get overwhelmed by something, right? Step back, change that mindset. And that mindset is such a huge thing for me. When I used to have an office outside of the house, of course, with, that's changed. But I used to say I was going to work. Well, I don't feel what I do is work. So, I love working with people. I love talking to people. I love sharing information with people to help them on their journey. So it's not work. It's actually my passion, my joy. So when I stopped calling it work, right, then it changes it. It takes that element out of it of, yes, it's not work. It's what I love doing. So that's a huge thing to do. So thank you for bringing up that point. Because that's so important. So much, right, is about our mindset. And we get caught, once again, in the old patterns and the old ways of thinking. And on your path of greater consciousness, awareness, awakening, whatever you want to call it, it is being that observer and paying attention and recognizing, right, the old habits, that story of who you are. And your story is often the way you talk to yourself and the way you see yourself and the way you push yourself in towards areas that might not always be for your best and greatest good. So other things to do. So mindset, break it down into small pieces when you're starting on a project that you're unsure of. Being the observer, being aware, starting to change, but also release, right? The more you become aware of your negative thoughts, at first you can start to turn them around and say that's not true, but then eventually you will release them. Your brain's like this file cabinet, and it's actually in the old part of your brain. It's called your reticular activating system. Doesn't really matter, but it's like a file cabinet, and it holds your story. All those files, those labels, those pieces, those events that have happened that create how you describe yourself, how you see yourself. But if you can start to replace those old files, those old patterns, those old processes with a change in the way you see yourself and recognition.
Sherlock Holmes only has so much room in his brain, therefore he doesn't fill it up with useless knowledge, like the fact that the earth revolves around the sun, not the opposite way.
Well, there's a point. Yeah, I wouldn't have considered that useless, but I guess we know we're not Sherlock Holmes. So
no, we are not.
Anyways, so put in your brain what brings you joy, what brings you happiness, and those old patterns, those old ways of thinking will start to fall off. And even patterns, right? That for people that, get up in the morning and read a quick motivational quote or paragraph, there's tons and tons of books out there. There's services where you can get a quote every single day. It starts off, and so many studies have shown that people that start off with something motivational in their life, whether it's just something simple like a quote, is by 3/4 of the way through the day, they feel 30-40% more positive than those that don't start off with something motivational. So make that part of your routine, right? Change your mindset.
Or even that Daily Calm is an app. I quite like it, but it's just a morning, it's a 10-minute daily meditation. So if you get tired of the same ones, so every day you can just do a quick 10-minute meditation, and it's guided, which is kind of nice, especially if you're really first starting out, or even if you've been doing it for years. And each meditation will have a different theme or a different positivity or a different advice even for meditation, where they're like, you should try this, or you do a full body scan. But yeah, it's such a great way to start the day.
Mike Dooley, Tut Comments. I get his every single day from messages from the universe. Yeah, I love them. And it's always amazing how it seems that he's written them just for me, which I'm sure he has, because we're such good friends. But, things like that are just an easy way to, get to refocus and rethink and to plan and to reset your day. Also to plan the night before, or whether you do it at night or you do it in the morning, like take a look at the day and see, do I like what happened today? Could I do it differently tomorrow? Not coming from a place of judgment, but just how do I want to move forward and become that best version of myself, right? Because it is not about, hindsight's not supposed to be about judging yourself and looking back and being hard on yourself. It's just about, understanding who you want to be and how do you want to change. So, for me, that being the observer was such a huge thing because, I can catch myself faster and faster and realize, if I'm sad or upset or mad or angry or feeling grief, I can catch it really quickly without going down a rabbit hole. Because so often,
Melissa.
Oh, hi, Melissa. So often we get caught up in that rabbit hole, right? That we feel anxious and don't understand why. And then we get more and more anxious. And I think this is very common, especially in this day and age. And on Tuesday, I talked about stress and the adrenals and how stress affects our adrenals and then makes us exhausted and so many other things and anxious, so it's not always just that moment, right? It is, there's so many things that affect you and bring about the symptoms that you're feeling, whether physical, mental, emotional. So being that observer is just so important, and it will change your life once you step into that. Any other thoughts, any other tips that you use?
Yeah, I think it is just going back to, again, just forgiving yourself for it and just moving on and not dwelling. And yeah, if you do have that moment of anger or frustration, try not to direct it towards yourself. Where rather than being like, oh, I'm so stupid, being like, oh, that was stupid. Where if you're
Good
rushing
point.
around and you get your coat caught on the door handle, and like, yeah, it is annoying, but you didn't do it. It just happened. So like, yeah, that was frustrating. Not, oh God, I can't believe I did that. So yeah, just don't direct it towards yourself. Like we are all human. So we're allowed our anger, frustrations, but don't linger in it. Oh, we lost our light. Oh, that's not great.
Yeah, my battery died. 2 seconds. So that's actually a really important part. No, we're not going to get it fixed right away.
That's okay. You're
got my cord away. Yeah. So that's a really important part too, right? Is to, now I got distracted. What were you saying?
Direct it away from yourself.
Yes. Because actually,
the shiny feed.
Yeah. A lot of times in the universe, right? The universe slows us down when we need to slow down, right? So if you caught your coat in the cord on the door handle, right? Actually be in gratitude. Say, thank you, universe. Thank you for slowing me down. I could have forgotten something, or maybe I'm supposed to miss a car accident if I was heading out the door. Who knows what it was? It's like in traffic, right? Rather than being angry that you're stuck in traffic. And this can be an exercise because it's not always that simple, but right, you can't do anything about it anyways. So the quicker you can just go, oh, all right, now I get a chance to listen to a favorite song or listen to a podcast or, give them a call and let them know, but I'm not going to get caught up in this. Thank you, Melissa. then it is, that's a really great tool to, right, flip that mindset, change the way you look at things, and start to realize that, everything that happens can be a gift or it can be a frustration. It's just how you look at it. So, what do you want to see? And spend some time thinking about that. And the more you can think about that, and more you can be in gratitude and grateful for what you do have, the more you will change your life, and to move away from all those things that you say, and start to appreciate yourself more, and to learn to love yourself more. Because really, that's what this is all about, is self-love. And, we don't always have self-love for whatever reason, right? Whether it's insecurities, or we don't deserve, or we're not enough, whatever it is. But self-love that's what it comes down to. Because if we're really loving ourselves, then the outside stuff doesn't get to us quite as much.
Yep. And when we love ourselves, and we can be gentle with ourselves, we can be gentle with other people. And so we can forgive like little things that, you just accept it and move on.
Wonderful. And I think we'll just end it on that note, because that was a pretty good note. Yeah, light's gone. So check out my YouTube channel before, down below, Joanna Rochester, Soul Alchemist. And I would love for you, if you check it out, to subscribe. But anytime you have any questions or concerns, you want anything more, I'm always open to discussing it. If you would like to be a guest on my my webcast, I'm always open to talking about different subjects and getting different points of view. So reach out.
You don't just have to be her daughter. It's open to more people.
I just catch her when she's home from school, which really, it has been a few times, but it's really not that much. So anyways. I was
here for a month and a half due to the lockdown in Ontario.
Yeah. So Catriona McConnell, thank you for being here today.
Pleasure, Joanna.
I'm Joanna Rochester, Soul Alchemist, and this is part of Speak Up and Empower's online community of heart-centered people that are focused on creating a vision of the world that they see for themselves. Soul Alchemy is a journey of discovery, of transforming from who you are now to who you want to be, to come in alignment with your soul purpose and let go of any blocks that you have that are preventing you from achieving anything. Because you are limitless. Only you limit yourself. So Speak Up and Empower, conversations that change the way we see the world. Check out speakupandempower.com for more information. But otherwise, I'll see you next Thursday at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, or on Tuesdays for Wellness Renegade at 10:30 to talk about natural therapies and how to use them to heal yourself. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.